So what's likely to happen next? Let's go to Rahul Manchanda. He's an attorney specializing in immigration issues and joins us from New York City. Rahul, what exactly did President Trump's executive order accomplish, and when will these parents be reunited with their children?
That's a great question. Well, the executive order was actually just almost analogous to a tourniquet to stop the heavy bleeding in an emergency room scenario. It doesn't guarantee the saving of the life of the patient on the table, but it does stop the bleeding, at least recognize the problem. And I think the real hurdle is going to be now repatriation of the children back to these parents who, some of them may or may not be in the country, some of them may be incarcerated, some of them may not even be living. And the trauma, the psychological, physical, emotional trauma of these kids and the parents, and even the country, I don't even know how long that's going to take, but that needs to be implemented almost as quickly as executive order, within hours, I think.
Legally speaking, Rahul, how long can these children be kept in custody?
Unfortunately, you've got the Flores decision. There's a lot of things back and forth about 20 days to 90 days detention, but either way, it's weeks, if minimum, if not months or longer. This is something that is entirely unacceptable. The reality is detention of anybody is not a good thing, but children should be with the parents. And if the parents need to be detained, it should be an immigration facility, detention facility, if it's a zero tolerance mechanism that they're talking about. But by no means should any child be separated from their parents for more than a few hours, because the psychological, physical, emotional traumas, and actually recent news articles are talking about being drugged, children being drugged against their will, without the consent of the parents. So this is quite a distressing development that's going on right now.
So can you maintain, as far as this administration goes, a zero tolerance policy of prosecuting undocumented immigrants, but come up with a different approach that doesn't separate and break apart these families? There were other options.
Absolutely, and the proponents of the rule of law argument that we're a nation of the rule of law, a zero tolerance policy, are just out of their mind. I mean, the reality is, we are also a nation of equity. And what does equity mean? Equity means a higher justice. Everybody internally kind of knows right from wrong, whatever religion, race, creed you are, and taking children away from their parents is de facto wrong. So in that capacity, we really, really are losing our soul as a nation on that level.
And there seems to be some conflicting numbers here. The original number of kids separated and being held was about 2,300. Now we understand that Pentagon has been asked to provide 20,000 beds on military bases, for migrant children detained while crossing the border. That is a big jump in number. Why such a discrepancy, do you think?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security is a very new agency, but it's shrouded in secrecy. It's not as transparent as, say, the DOJ used to be before, after September 11th, the DHS was founded. We're talking about an agency that was in part founded by a fellow named Marcus Wolf, who his claim to fame was founding the Stasi of East Germany, and he actually cut his teeth with the USSR and the KGB. So, it's a very, very difficult agency to get answers from. And you see mayors and congressmen, senators, people going to detention facilities and being refused entry. And that, to me, is a violation of the separation of powers, the three branches of government, the executive, legislative, and judiciary. It seems to me that the DHS, which is part of the executive, is just kind of stepping over the legislative and the judiciary and closing off the walls, which is, I think, a very big problem, and it could be even bigger based on this. I think this is just sort of the tip of the iceberg when you've got kids. 3,000 or 5,000 they're talking about, now it's 20,000, and now you're hearing stories about them being forcibly drugged. So there's a really very big danger, in my opinion, that the DHS is getting out of control and needs to be reined in by the other two branches of government. I mean, even they're being refused to access the information. Forget about the American people. We don't know anything at this point, but the executive, the other parts of the government are also being shut out as well. So.
Rahul, you're an immigration attorney. What are you hearing from the people you know on the ground about conditions at one of these larger facilities in McAllen, Texas?
Not hearing anything good, obviously, but the reality is, what is striking about this entire thing is that nobody really talked about it before this current administration, which I'm finding troubling too, because I've been involved in the immigration practice for 16 to 20 years. Never seen it as egregious. I think it's been thrust into the limelight because of, I think, Jeff Sessions' policy of the rule of law, zero tolerance. This is a very big deal, building the wall. So it's almost like they're bargaining for immigration legislation and the wall with kids in the lurch, which is kind of a new, disturbing development. literally is holding ransom of children, and the damage has been done. We're talking. Nobody knows how long these kids have been in custody or, been subjected to these sort of cruel, treatments. But the damage is done. Kids are, it's permanent damage, and it's very, very distressing. So even if we kind of roll it back and try to spend the money to find the parents, which is really what needs to be done here, whether they're overseas or here, we need to make sure that not even one child is left orphaned by this, which is a very, very distressing scandal, in my opinion.
Well, we certainly hope it doesn't come to that. Rahul Manchanda, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me.